So let's talk about bullying. It's a word we hear all the time, right? But it's so often misunderstood. And honestly, that confusion can lead to a lot of real pain. So in this explainer, we're going to try and cut through all that noise and give you a really clear way to understand what's actually going on. Sound familiar? You know, if you've ever found yourself asking this question, I just want you to know you are definitely not alone. It is one of the most common, most confusing thoughts people have when they're in a really tough spot. It's a totally valid question, and we're going to get some answers. And I'm guessing you've probably heard stuff like, just ignore it, or my favorite, toughen up. Look, people who say this usually mean well, but that advice just doesn't work. It completely misses what's really happening. So today, let's build a better, clearer framework together. Okay, so the first and most important thing to get is this. Bullying is not just someone being mean out of the blue. It's more than that. It's a very specific kind of pattern. And listen, this isn't just my opinion. It's the actual definition that experts all over the world use to figure out what's really going on and how to help. A good way to think about it is like a recipe. For something to actually be called bullying, it has to have 3 specific ingredients. All 3. If you're missing even one, then it's something else. You know, it might be conflict or just someone being rude, but it doesn't fit the definition of bullying. So, what are these ingredients? Okay, here they are. A power imbalance, repetition, and an intent to harm. Let's break down exactly what each of those means, and we're going to start with the one that is truly the heart of the whole thing. This right here, this is the absolute key. A power imbalance is the thing that really separates bullying from just a normal argument. Now, sometimes it's obvious, right? Like someone is just physically bigger or stronger, but a lot of the time it's way more subtle. We're talking about social power, like popularity, who's in the in crowd, or even the power of a whole group ganging up on one person. It's that imbalance that makes the whole thing feel so unfair, and like there's no way out. Okay, ingredient number 2, repetition. Look, a single fight or a one-off mean comment, that's conflict. But when that hurtful stuff happens again and again and again, it becomes a pattern. And what happens is your brain actually starts to expect it. It puts your whole body on high alert. So that feeling of dread you might get or that anxiety in the pit of your stomach, that is not you being weak. That's your body's natural alarm system screaming, hey, known danger ahead. And finally, we've got intent. This one is huge because this is where that classic excuse, I was just joking, completely falls apart. Here's the deal. It doesn't matter if they think it's funny. What matters is that they know it's hurting you. If you've told them to stop, or if it's just obvious from your reaction that you're upset and they keep doing it anyway, well, that's a choice. That's intense. Okay, so we have our 3 ingredients: power imbalance, repetition, and intent. Now that we have those, let's use them to draw a really clear line in the sand. Because, you know, understanding what bullying isn't can be just as important as knowing what it is. It really helps you figure out what you're dealing with. So think about it this way. Normal, everyday conflict, it's like 2 people on a seesaw who are pretty much balanced. It's a 2-way street. But bullying, that's a totally different story. The seesaw is completely tilted. It's a 1-way street, where one person is using their advantage, their power, to push the other person down over and over again. And it's so important to remember that this stuff isn't always about getting shoved into a locker. A lot of the time, it's not physical at all. You've got relational bullying. That's stuff like purposely leaving someone out or spreading rumors to wreck their friendships. That can hurt just as much. And then there's cyberbullying, which, man, that just follows you home. It's on your phone 24/7. It can really feel like there's nowhere to hide. So no matter what form it takes, physical, social, online, the feeling it creates is just intense. It can be totally overwhelming. And I need you to hear this. That feeling is not just in your head. There is a very real, very powerful biological reason why it feels so bad. Let's just pause on this for a second because this is probably the most important thing you'll hear today. Whatever your reaction is, whether you get angry or scared or just totally freeze up, it is not proof that you're weak. It's proof that your brain is doing its job. It's trying to protect you from something it knows is a threat. See, your brain's ancient survival wiring, it doesn't really know the difference between a tiger jumping out of the bushes and a major social threat. Danger is danger. So it kicks into gear with one of its classic responses: fight, flight, freeze, or even fawn. So if you've ever been in a situation and you just froze, like you couldn't get a single word out, that's not you failing. That's your brain hitting the emergency brake. It's pure survival instinct. Okay, so now that we understand all that, let's turn it into a simple checklist you can use. This isn't about pointing fingers or blaming anyone. It's just a tool to help you get clear on what's happening. Question 1. Does one person have more social or physical power than me? Think about it honestly. Is there an imbalance here? Question 2. Does it keep happening? Is this a pattern, not just something that happened once? And the last question, does it continue even after I've made it clear it hurts? Even if you didn't say the words, was it obvious you were upset and it didn't stop? Look, if you answered yes to these questions, then what you are dealing with is, by definition, bullying. It's not just teasing. You are not being too sensitive. And just being able to name it, that's a huge first step. It means you're not imagining things, and it means you absolutely deserve support. Knowing what bullying is and what it isn't gives you a ton of power. But of course, it leads to that other massive question, right? So why do people bully in the first place? What's going on inside their head? Well, that's a whole other can of worms, and it's exactly what we're going to dig into next time.